It begins as a whisper, not from the world outside, but from somewhere far deeper, a space within you that most people spend a lifetime trying to avoid. We chase peace in temples, in relationships, in the glow of screens and the noise of applause. Yet the more we seek it, the further it slips away, as if peace itself hides whenever we start looking. But what if peace isn't something to be found? What if it's something that must be remembered, rediscovered beneath the noise of our own thoughts? The wars we fight with others are only reflections of the wars raging quietly inside. We crave harmony in society, but ignore the chaos in our hearts. We talk of love, yet harbor resentment. We preach kindness, yet judge in silence. And in those contradictions, that is where our real struggle begins. Because how can the world be at peace when the person standing in front of the mirror is not? The truth is simple, but rarely lived. We cannot have outer peace until we make peace within. So tonight, as the world rushes on, pause. Listen. Can you hear it? That faint echo inside you, asking the question that changes everything. What would happen if you finally made peace with yourself? We live in an age obsessed with harmony, yet filled with conflict. Every headline screams division, every conversation teeters on argument, and every heart beneath the surface is tired. We tell ourselves we want peace, but what we truly chase is control. Control over outcomes, people, emotions, even time itself. We design perfect routines, curate perfect lives, and post perfect smiles. Yet every attempt to control becomes another chain. The paradox of our era is this. The more we try to perfect the outer world, the more broken the inner one becomes. Think of it. Our phones buzz with guided meditations while our minds refuse to slow down. We light candles to manifest calm while scrolling through chaos. We talk endlessly about balance while secretly drowning in the noise of our own expectations. We seek silence, but fear what it might reveal. We desire love, but run from vulnerability. We preach authenticity, but hide behind filters. And so, the war continues. Not on battlefields, but in bedrooms, in offices, in the quiet spaces between thoughts. We mistake distraction for peace. We call numbness serenity. We confuse escape with freedom. But peace cannot be downloaded, performed, or proven. It does not exist in a playlist, a quote, or a perfectly timed sunrise meditation. Peace is not found in the absence of noise. It is born in our willingness to listen through it. Look around. Cities pulse with neon light. Conversations happen without presence. Connection has never been easier, and yet loneliness has never felt so heavy. We are surrounded by people, yet isolated inside our own minds. We try to fix this feeling by doing more, working harder, achieving faster, meditating longer. But all the effort, all the noise, only deepens the distance between who we are and who we pretend to be. Here lies the modern paradox. We want inner peace without facing inner truth. We want connection without vulnerability. We want freedom without surrender. And the cost of this illusion is exhaustion. Because peace, real peace, requires something radical. It asks us to stop fighting, Not the world, not others, but ourselves. It asks us to sit in silence long enough to face what's been buried. The anger, the regret, the shame, the grief. All the things we've labeled weakness because society told us strength meant suppression. But strength isn't silence in pain. It's the courage to look inward without running away. And perhaps that's the true rebellion in our age, to stop chasing the illusion of peace outside and begin listening to the fragile truth within. Because until we make peace with our own chaos, no amount of world peace will ever feel real. So ask yourself, what are you still running from? Peace is not a reward for perfection. It is the quiet that returns when we stop resisting what is. At its core, inner peace is not a state of mind. It is a relationship with ourselves, with our pain, and with the unfolding of life itself. It is not achieved, it is allowed. The great mistake of modern living is that we believe peace comes after success, after healing, after the world stops hurting. But peace does not wait for the storm to pass. It exists within the storm, for those who have the courage to stop fighting the rain. When you close your eyes and listen, truly listen, you realize something subtle yet profound. Life has never asked you to be perfect, only to be present. But presence is terrifying because it strips away illusion. It shows us that our fear of discomfort is what keeps us trapped in it. We cling to our pain because it defines us. We replay the betrayals, the regrets, the what-ifs, as if holding on might somehow rewrite the past. But peace whispers, you cannot change what was, only your relationship to it. Imagine your inner world as a lake. When stirred by wind, it distorts every reflection. You cannot see clearly until the water becomes still. But here's the paradox. Stillness doesn't come by forcing calm. It comes when you stop stirring the water. That is the essence of inner peace, not the absence of emotion, but the acceptance of its movement. Pain will visit. Grief will arrive uninvited. Fear will knock at the door. The goal is not to evict them, but to meet them without judgment, to say, I see you. You are part of me. You can stay until you teach me what I need to learn. Because in truth, every emotion carries wisdom. Anger reveals boundaries. Sadness shows love's depth. Fear points to where growth is needed. When we reject them, we reject the very guidance that could heal us. That's why peace begins not with meditation or philosophy, but with compassion, a deep, unwavering kindness toward the self. It's easy to say, be kind to others. But how often do you speak gently to yourself? How often do you forgive your own missteps, your delays, your doubts? We think cruelty motivates change, but all it does is reinforce shame. And shame left unhealed becomes the root of every inner war. When we meet ourselves with compassion, something extraordinary happens. The mind softens. The body exhales. The soul remembers it was never broken. The world outside may still be chaotic, but within, something shifts. The same chaos that once triggered panic now becomes a teacher. The same silence that once felt unbearable now becomes sanctuary. Because peace is not a condition, it is a capacity, a way of being with life as it unfolds, without needing it to be different. That's why the wise do not chase calm. They practice surrender. They learn to bow, not in defeat, but in understanding. To bow before life's impermanence. To bow before uncertainty. To bow before the truth that everything you love will one day change. And yet, to love anyway. That is peace. To love in the face of impermanence. It is not apathy. It is not withdrawal. It is the strength to remain open when the world urges you to close. It is the courage to breathe when fear says run. It is the wisdom to pause when anger demands reaction. Peace is not found in avoiding pain. It is found in embracing reality. Because when you stop demanding that life be painless, you finally begin to live. Think of a tree in winter. It does not curse the cold or resist the wind. It bends. It rests. It trusts spring will return. The peace of that tree is not passive. It is rooted. Rooted in faith, in patience, in the rhythm of things beyond its control. So too must we root ourselves, not in certainty, but in trust. Trust that life unfolds as it must. Trust that even heartbreak has purpose. Trust that the storms do not destroy us. They reveal us. This is the heart of all spiritual teaching, echoed across centuries. Buddha called it right understanding. The Stoics called it alignment with nature. Lao Tzu called it Wu Wei, effortless action. Different words, same truth. Stop fighting reality, and you will find peace waiting beneath it. Because peace was never gone. It was only hidden under layers of resistance. When we surrender that resistance, we rediscover our original state, the calm we were born with, before fear taught us otherwise. And in that rediscovery comes a realization that changes everything. You do not create peace, you return to it. It was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the stories, beneath the search, waiting for you to remember. So perhaps the real question is not, how do I find peace, but what am I willing to let go of to return to it? There was once a man who sought peace more than anything in the world. He had read every sacred text, meditated in every temple, and wandered across continents in search of silence. But no matter where he went, the noise followed. The endless chatter of thought, the ache of memory, the hunger for more. One day, weary from years of searching, he climbed a mountain and found a small hut perched among the clouds. Inside sat an old hermit, his eyes soft, his breath steady. The man bowed deeply and said, "Master, I have traveled the world to find peace, yet it escapes me still. Please, teach me how to silence my mind." The hermit smiled and handed him a cup of tea. As he poured, the cup filled to the brim, then overflowed, spilling hot liquid across the table. The man jumped back in surprise. "Careful, it's overflowing." The hermit looked into his eyes and said, "Like this cup, you are full of desires, fears, judgments, and expectations. How can peace enter when there is no room for it to dwell?" The man was silent. He stayed on the mountain for days, helping the hermit gather water, chop wood, and light fires. There were no lectures, no mantras, only quiet work. At first the silence was unbearable. His thoughts screamed for distraction. But over time he began to notice small things. The rhythm of his breath, the crackle of firewood, the cold sting of mountain air. One night, as they sat beneath a sky scattered with stars, the man asked, "Master, when will peace come?" The hermit replied, "Peace does not come. Peace is what remains when you stop searching." The man didn't understand, not yet. But later that night, when the wind howled against the hut, something shifted. He stopped trying to control the sound. He simply listened. And in that moment, he heard the stillness between each gust. A silence so complete, it felt alive. The mountain hadn't changed. The noise hadn't stopped. But something within him had softened. He realized the world outside had always mirrored the world within. Years later, when he descended the mountain, people noticed something different about him. He still faced the same challenges: hunger, sorrow, uncertainty, but he moved through them like a man who had remembered a forgotten song. Someone once asked him, "How did you find peace up there?" He smiled gently. "I didn't find it up there," he said. "I simply stopped losing it down here." And that became his way of living. He no longer fought against life. When anger arose, he bowed to it. When sadness visited, he offered it tea. When joy came, he danced, knowing it too would one day leave. He understood that peace was not a permanent state, but a rhythm, one that could only be heard by those who had learned to stop shouting over it. Years later, as the man grew old, a young traveler came to him and asked, "Master, what is peace?" The old man looked at him kindly and said, "Peace is not something you find. It is what you become when you stop arguing with life." The traveler didn't fully understand, but he noticed something strange. The old man's hut was noisy. Wind creaked through the walls, the fire hissed, the world outside rumbled. And yet, standing there, he felt an unexplainable calm. It wasn't the silence of absence. It was the silence of presence. A peace so deep it embraced every sound, every imperfection, every heartbeat. And as he walked away, he realized, perhaps peace was never about escaping the world, but about remembering who you are in the middle of it. Peace does not arrive with trumpets or golden light. It arrives quietly, like dawn breaking through a window you forgot was open. There comes a moment in every life when the search exhausts itself, when the striving, the fixing, the proving, all of it simply burns out. And what's left is not emptiness, but clarity. You begin to see how much of your suffering was self-inflicted, how much of your pain came not from life itself, but from the story you kept telling about how life should be. You see how you clung to old wounds because they made you feel real, how you mistook intensity for meaning, struggle for purpose, and noise for life. And then something miraculous happens. You let go. Not in defeat, but in understanding. You let go of the need to always be right, to always be strong, to always be okay. You stop chasing approval from others and begin to listen to your own heartbeat. In that surrender, the walls you built start to crumble. The space within you expands, wide enough to hold sorrow and joy in the same breath. You realize that peace was never the absence of chaos, but the ability to remain whole within it. This is the moment the world softens. You notice the way sunlight falls differently on your hands. You notice the way a single, deep breath can dissolve a day's worth of tension. You notice that your heart, though scarred, still beats with gentleness. And in that awareness, you forgive. You forgive the past for not being kinder. You forgive yourself for not knowing better. You forgive others for the hurt they caused, understanding now that wounded people wound others. Forgiveness is not a moral act. It is a liberation. It is the closing of an old book so you can begin another. And suddenly, peace no longer feels like an ideal. It feels like home. Because you realize something profound. The wars we fight outside mirror the wars inside. If you heal yourself, you heal the world in your own small radius. If you bring stillness to your own heart, you become a quiet revolution. The person who has made peace within cannot be manipulated by fear. They no longer need to win every argument or prove every point. Their calm becomes contagious, a mirror in which others see their own turbulence. And that is how peace spreads. Not through sermons or treaties, but through presence, one peaceful soul at a time. So when you see the chaos of the world, remember, you're not powerless. Your silence, your forgiveness, your awareness, they ripple outward, unseen, but unstoppable. And maybe that is what humanity has forgotten. That the first revolution is not political, but personal. That the first peace treaty is not between nations, but between your mind and your heart. And when that treaty is signed, when you finally make peace with yourself, you will find the world changing quietly around you. In the end, peace is not something you find. It is something you remember. It was always there beneath the noise, waiting for your permission to return. The world will keep moving. The noise will not disappear. People will still misunderstand you. Plans will still fall apart. And storms will still arrive unannounced. But once you have touched that stillness inside, once you've made peace with yourself, the storms no longer own you. You begin to live differently. You listen more and react less. You walk slower, not because you've lost your ambition, but because you finally trust life's timing. You no longer chase meaning in the distance. You breathe it in, right here, in this very moment. And when conflict arises, you no longer ask, who is right? You ask, what would bring peace? Because peace is not passive. It is an act of courage. It is choosing presence over pride, forgiveness over fury, stillness over noise. It is the decision made again and again to stay open in a world that hardens hearts. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and the silence begins to speak, don't run. Let it whisper to you. Let it show you that peace was never missing. It was merely waiting for you to stop searching. And when you wake tomorrow, carry this truth quietly. The outer world will always reflect your inner one. So before you wish for peace around you, create it within you.